Hi, and welcome back to From First Kiss to Wedded Bliss. Today, I'm joined by my special guest and longtime friend, Phillip Gonzales. Phillip has been a professional communicator for over 20 years. He has served as a speaker, an author, a pastor and coach, growth consultant, and entrepreneur. His goal is to help as many people as possible unlock their next level of success for the good of all people and the glory of God. He and his wife, Heather, have been married for almost 12 years, and they live with their 3 kids in Babcock Ranch. Welcome, Phillip. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Marcy. I'm honored to be here.
Excellent. Now, as I said, Phillip is a longtime friend. So a while back, I saw a post that you made on Facebook regarding your marriage and things you've learned. And so that's where I'd like to start today. Tell me some of those things that you've learned being married nearly 12 years now.
Well, I feel like anything that I could share about that, you would be able to share so much better from your amazing history too. But I'll tell you, Marcy, I think if I were to say the number one thing that I've learned in those years is to keep learning and accept that there's not some point when we arrive and check the box and say, I've got marriage figured out, but rather have that posture of saying, there's always some new thing to discover together. There's something I can learn that's new about her. There's something I can learn new about me. But as long as I keep that openness, then that's going to put us in a good place because we're learning and growing together.
That is a really good point. I think it's not a destination. It is a journey. We're never going to arrive, right? And that's the same way in our personal lives, isn't it? We should be always working on personal development, learning, growing. Chris and I've made that a habit since we first got married. Let's always do something to invest in our marriage, because really where you invest is where you're going to see the results, aren't you?
Oh, 100%. I think, what's the phrase? Things grow where they're watered or something like
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, things we've grown in over the years. I know that my background is in communication. That's my degree, and I have loved being able to learn and grow in that area. And if I look over the past nearly 12 years, it'll be 12 years in March, so we're still a few months away, but I'm leaning into the future. I love that. Um, I think that focus on communication is something I'm sure you've heard so many people talk about. Some of your guests have talked about. You have. That's really served us well as we really tried our best to learn to communicate. And I like to define communication as this idea of creating shared meaning together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can just talk at you, but if I don't fully know that you've understood me, then I don't really think I've communicated, and vice versa.
Right.
And learning through all the ups and downs, learning to do that more effectively has really served us well.
That's really good. Now, do you have any thoughts on when one person in the marriage is not as invested as the other person? We all know we can't change someone else. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I know for me, one of the things I've tried to cultivate over the years is always asking why. And then once I get the first answer, ask why that and why that. There's a great story about the founder of the Toyota Motor Company. His name was Satoshi Toyoda with a D. I don't know how they changed it to a T, probably for marketing reasons. But he has this thing called the 5 whys. And a good example is, okay, you run out of gas on the side of the road. Why? Well, because you ignored the gas light. Why? Because you were in a hurry to get where you were going. Why? Because you woke up late that morning and didn't have enough time. Why? Because you didn't set the alarm properly the night before. Why? Because you had something going on that made you forget, and you didn't give yourself a reminder to set the alarm. So the more you ask that why, climbing back, you start to get to root causes. And so in a relationship where one party is much less invested than the other, I would say a good place to start is to start asking why, and not in an accusatory way. Why aren't you more invested in our relationship? But rather, right? I mean, because that's it. I would love to see a couple where that works well. Why aren't you this? Right? Generally not helpful. But to frame it in the sense of I've noticed that it feels like we're more distant, and I want to do anything I can to help. Why do you think that is? And presumably the person will have some kind of answer, and I would bet cash money that that first answer is not the real answer.
Mhm.
But asking that why this, why that, um, that can be really helpful. And I say that too with the knowledge that a lot of people will have to navigate that carefully, because what one partner intends as a way to get to know the other one better,
Mhm.
the other partner might feel like it's an inquisition. And so you have to feel that out. I think that's where, quite honestly, for someone in that spot, I would encourage them to talk to you, Dr. Chris, get a coach to help you find the right balance. Because if you
Mhm.
just sit down with a checklist of questions and keep hammering them, that's probably not ideal either.
Right.
Somewhere in there, I think, is a path forward that a lot of people can help. Because if you understand why something is happening,
Mhm.
only then can you really take steps to address it and fix it.
That's really important. Yes. And to be humble enough to receive their answers without defensiveness, right?
Oh,
Yes, because that can shut things down pretty quickly. If you ask and then they tell you and you say, but you and that's not
totally.
going to work, is
You
it?
know, there's an interesting habit that I've tried to adopt over the years that's been really helpful for me. And do you mind if I share
Go for it.
it? um,
That's why you're here.
right? Oh yeah, totally. There's four questions that I try to ask myself when I feel something rising up in me that I don't know is going to be helpful or useful. The first question is, what am I feeling? So whether this is in a conversation with my spouse and I'm starting to feel defensive, taking a moment to pause and say, okay, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling defensive. Okay. Second question is, why am I feeling this way? And if the answer to that is, well, they're accusing me. Okay. Or, well, because they just said this. Okay. Well, the third question is, where did this come from? Okay. Because guess what? If another person said the same thing, I probably wouldn't have any issue with it. But what is it about them saying it that really made a big deal? And the fourth question is, I think, the most important. Anytime I'm in a conversation with another person, especially my spouse, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Where did it come from? Which is usually much more about me than it is about them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth thing is, where will it lead?
Hmm.
Because thinking ahead, if I run with this emotion, if I let this prompt action in a certain direction, where's that going to lead? And is that a place I really want to go? And I'll give you a concrete example. I'm grateful to say that to this day, my wife and I have never had a fight. We've had disagreements, we've had conversations, but when I say a fight, I mean that kind of harsh words, people walk away angry. And the reason for that, a big one is starting early in our marriage, I adopted the habit of when things would start to get a little heated, I would ask myself this question: is this issue the one that I want to be our first big fight?
Hmm.
Is it worth it? When I look back on this and I say, that was our first big fight, is this the one I want to do that with? Is it really worth it? Because she didn't put gas in the car or because I forgot to take out the trash? Is that the one that's going to be our first big fight was about that? No. Okay. Maybe we will have our first big fight someday, but it won't be about something this trivial. And that's been really helpful for me. Those two things, kind of checking my own emotions and then asking that, just real concrete, is this the thing that's going to be that? Or am I going to hold that for something else? Right? Does that make sense?
I like that. I do. I wrote down your questions. Those are great. I think that what you're talking about is really about personal accountability, personal responsibility. What is mine to do in this situation?
I love that.
And that is so key, so vital if we all can realize that. I guess it's really just what the Bible says. Take the speck out of your own eye first. And then you can
100%.
deal with the log in your spouse's eye, your brother's eye.
100%. And I would even take a step further. We hear in scripture about taking every thought captive
Mm-hmm.
and submitting it to Christ. Cultivating that is a spiritual thing, but it's also a really practical skill. It's a skill. Some people would call it metacognition. It's called thinking about thinking. Cultivating the skill of examining your own thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and then analyzing them, and then saying, is this honoring to the Lord? Is this helpful for me? Is this useful for this thing that we're trying to do? A lot of people just kind of go with the flow, But when we learn to just pause and examine our own thoughts and our own heart and our own motives in the moment, kind of tap the brakes a little,
Right.
so many things get a lot easier because we're slowing. It's the crazy cycle, right? I think is that
Love and respect.
love and respect. Yeah, yeah. It's helping break that crazy cycle. So
Yes. Awesome. I like that idea about the taking every thought captive. And a lot of people don't really realize how their thoughts control them when they don't take them captive, when they don't examine what they're thinking, what they're feeling, why they're feeling that way. Journaling has been enormously helpful for me. Are you a journaler?
this is my journal. This is journal number. I would number them. This is number 23.
Okay, you number them. Good
I've got
idea.
stats back there. Yeah, they're numbered and dated, and such a helpful idea. I love that you brought that up.
Good. Yes, journaling, I think it helps you process things. And a lot of times, once you've journaled it and worked it out with God, you don't even really feel the need to take it up with your spouse because you realize, oh, that was me. And that wasn't what they did in the moment. It was just a trigger, reminded me of something else or whatever. But yes, that's great. That's really powerful. So taking accountability for your own thoughts, your own actions, reactions, because that's all you really have power over, not the other person.
100%.
Yes. So early on in your marriage, you said that you worked on those questions and you really have never had a big blow up of an argument about anything. And of course, it's natural that all couples will have some disagreements. Just the fact that we're male and female is enough difference for us not to see things the same way. How else have you invested in your marriage to make things work well?
That's a great question, Marcy. I wanted to set a mission statement for our message because I heard someone give a talk on that once, and I thought it was a great idea. My wife didn't love that idea.
No.
So I think one of the investments I've tried to make in our marriage is accepting the fact that not all the ideas I think are great ideas actually are for us. Because the Bible talks about two becoming one. And what that means is, to me, is I may have an idea that would be great if we each were the same, but we're not. We're this new thing. And so cultivating, you used this word earlier, cultivating the humility to be able to say, maybe this is a good idea for a lot of people, but if my wife isn't on board with it, and if it isn't something, now obviously I'm not talking about something like sin or something black and white, or, my wife thinks it's a good idea to not pay her taxes or whatever,
Yes.
Actually that'd probably be more on my side. Anyway, she's great. I'm not talking about that, but so many of the things, and you've seen this and so many others have, so many of the things that we maybe have disagreements about, they're not about sin. They're not about law. They're just about preferences. And so having the humility to say, you know what, maybe this would be a good idea for someone else, but if my wife isn't on board, and with a couple of invitations to consider it, she's still not on board, then it's not a good idea for us. And so I've tried to invest in learning how to let go of things. By nature, I'm a perfectionist and I'm an optimizer. I'm always looking to improve, always looking to do better. And I've had to learn that needs to be tempered as well, because pushed too far, that becomes a taskmaster. I become the taskmaster in a relationship, and that's no way to build connection. So I think learning the humility of letting go of a lot of things has been really key. And I'll tell you this too, another example. I heard a great sermon by a guy named Matt Chandler many years ago. And I love how vulnerable he was when he shared this. He said, I don't pick the music in our car. I don't pick the restaurants that we go to. I don't pick the color of stuff most of the time, because I know that the day will come when I do need to be decisive as a husband about something that really matters. And I don't want to clutter up that conversation with a whole bunch of other times that I tried to get my way. And I remember when I heard that, and I think this was before I was even married. It was years ago. I just remember hearing that, and this idea of really taking a long view, saving those decision points or those I'm putting my foot down moments for the things that really matter. That's been hugely helpful for me and for us.
That's excellent. There's so many thoughts there in regards to what you just had to say.
I
Really.
could keep going too, but apparently I talk a lot, so I'm learning to
No,
cut
there's
it.
about self-sacrifice. Chris and I were just doing a lesson on husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, and how really I think the husbands have the harder end of the deal. When you've got a husband who's doing that, then submission should be pretty easy because he's already thinking about what you want, and that he's not trying to push an agenda, like you're saying, and really considering. Also, I think the second part that I picked up on what you were saying is acceptance. Truly loving someone is to accept who they are and not try to change them. I heard a pastor recently talking about how he felt like God was telling him that he kept trying to move his wife's cones, like you've got traffic cones,
Yeah, yeah.
and he was always trying to change them, rearrange them. And God said, I made her who she is for a reason. And when you learn to accept those things and work with those things, I can do something in you as well. And what a benefit if both spouses could do that, accept each other as we are. That's what real love is, unconditional
I love
acceptance.
that. You talk about love. One of the things that I've really enjoyed over the years, because I am kind of wordy, and I read a lot of books, and I like that. I like exploring definitions for things, either exploring what other people have said or coming up with my own. And my favorite definition for love is simply this: love is a steadfast commitment to the greatest good of its object. And so it's a steadfast commitment. We get this from Scripture. The Hebrew word chesed is God's covenantal, unconditional, steadfast commitment, love for his people. So love is a steadfast commitment. Number two, to the greatest good of its object. Not necessarily the most fun or the most happiness or the most pleasure, but if I truly love my wife, I am committed to her greatest good. Now, I will understand that imperfectly, and I'll pursue that imperfectly. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13 that we see through a glass darkly or see in a mirror dimly, right? We know in part. We know these things, right? But if I want to pursue the greatest good for her, well, guess what? That's also the greatest good for me. Because if I have a healthy love for myself as the person God made me, it is good for me to learn how to seek the greatest good of another. That's becoming more like Christ. That's becoming more of the person that God made me to be. And so when I keep that focus on the greatest good, that really has been helpful. And that means, I'm not trying to change her into someone I want her to be. I'm trying to create space and support her to become the best version of who God made her to be. And I have a thing called true success, that ultimately, I believe true success is fulfilling God's purpose for your life. But in a real practical sense, what is that? True success is finding and being the best version of you for the good of all people and the glory of God.
Yes.
So I say, okay, I can't change her, but I can support her as she continues to grow and change into the person God made her to be. But I can only know how to support her if I observe, if I ask, if I study her. So I think it's 1st or 2nd Peter talks about husbands live with your wives in an understanding way. And you probably heard the teaching before. That understanding is about really digging in to know who she was made to see as best you can, who she was made to be, and support her in that.
That is excellent. Yes, I totally agree with all that you were saying. And I want to give you an opportunity. I know you just mentioned your True Success. Is that a program or a book? What other projects do you have going on? And are there ways that people can contact you if they would like to get help from you on anything?
Absolutely. Well, the truth is, Marcy, I have a lot of started projects and a few finished ones, which is good. So depending on when someone checks out the podcast, the best way is always to just go to my website at phillipgonzales.com. And I have things available there that people might find helpful in their journey, whether it's in business or family or faith. Phillip Gonzales, Phillip. Last name Gonzales, Gonzales. phillipgonzales.com. So that's the easiest way to get in touch, and I love connecting with folks.
Okay, thank you. Before we end our interview today, I always like to focus on one thing, and I know we've talked about a few things that you have practiced in your marriage, but one thing intentional that you do on a regular basis to strengthen your relationship.
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I make her coffee every morning. Um, no, I actually, because all joking aside, if I could say one thing, be intentional about blessing your spouse in the ways that matter to them, especially the little things consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So, what that looks like in our marriage, every morning I make the coffee and pour her a cup. Every evening, she loads my toothbrush right before we go to bed. And it's these little routines, these little rhythms of saying, hey, anyone can, you know, do a heroic effort and do something amazing every once in a while.
Right.
But the healthiest relationships I've seen are the ones that do the little things consistently. And that would be my encouragement to anyone who wants to have their relationship grow from first kiss to wedded bliss.
That's awesome, Philip. Thank you. I really appreciated our time. And I totally agree with you. Those little investments daily really do add up rather than those big, oh, we're going to go for a week away kind of thing. Those are all nice. But if you're not doing the day to day stuff, it kind of falls flat. So, all right. I appreciate your time and I look forward to maybe another talk in the future.
Love to. Thank you for having me.